Andy, most of you probably already know, he's sort of a man for all seasons. In fact, he's been doing it for 50 of these seasons. He's been in about every sport you can name, soccer, even lacrosse, Major League Baseball, the NFL, NBA, probably a couple others I don't know about. We can talk about those soon.
And-controlled football league. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I know. Well, we will talk about that. So I want to introduce Andy, and I'm going to start with this question. Now, I know you were a young guy then, but how does this compare with the 1917 pandemic?
Well, of course, I knew the pandemic was coming in 1915, so
I didn't know that.
for it. So I came around a few years later than that.
Yeah.
But there isn't a pandemic playbook, seriously, that anybody, at least in the world of sports, had or has. And there might not be one as we look at our governmental leaders. And that's what has the industry and many of us in real life confused.
If you were an executive on a team and you went into the office, let's say there was an office to go to, what would you be doing?
Well, the first thing I'd be doing is showing these people this, right?
That's
so
right.
How lucky can one man get that
I know.
actually has one of these?
The ALSD is not in a big award show, but we give out one award a year. We give it a Visionary Awards, and you were one of our recipients in 2016.
16, right.
Yeah, 2016. I think it's more of a Lifetime Achievement Award, almost more than Visionary. But in your case, you've done some things that truly no one else has ever done.
Essentially, let's go to your first question about, the office. And
yeah.
One of the challenges that I see is that sports is made up of so many individual pieces. I mean, we have multiple sports, we have events, we have venues that are doing entertainment. Sports should be about teamwork. And what I've seen in the last few months, in many instances, is the Tower of Babel and not everyone coming together, speaking about the fact that we are one industry. We might have a different size bat or ball or whatever it might be, but I think that's one of the areas that's missing. And everybody's sort of positioning themselves as to when they can come back. The two real questions are when, and I don't believe anybody has that answer, and then more importantly, how. How are we going to come back when our society has suffered and is suffering, a blow to every part of our daily life? Sports is a part of it. And what I'm most proud of in 50 years in this business is that sport is the town square. It gives all of us the ability to wrap our arms around a community that might have gone through some trauma, whether it was 9/11, whether it was the earthquake that I went through in '89 with the A's and the Giants, whether it's Katrina, whether it's some sort of terrorist attack. Now sports is right in the middle of it. It can't just come in at the end and say, hey, it's all cool. Run back to stadiums and venues and little league fields and high school gyms. Now we've got to figure this out together. My analogy is that sports is going to be a rolling lights up. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen in different forms or fashions in different events across the country until all of us feel comfortable that we can go back to where we were. I don't see it as any kind of instantaneous magic.
Well, sports is now so much of TV sport. Do you think there's going to be a lot of playing with empty stands, that type of thing, before they introduce fans back into the game?
I believe that without the dynamic of fans in a stadium, again, at a little league field, a high school gym, it's not what we love about this business. And to me, and everybody's different, those sort of games with no fans in a venue and the players, their motivation is significant. They're getting paid a lot of money. I get that. But to play in a football stadium, baseball stadium, or a sports venue with no fans, I think gets real old, real quick, and doesn't have much of the future.
The teams and the leagues have broadcast deals, those type of things, radio deals. You could make an argument that everybody's at home, so the ratings could be high. You might have trouble finding advertisers because a lot of these are consumer advertisers and people don't have money to buy things. So, my feeling is there's probably going to start with something like an NBA or an NHL playing on a practice floor and doing something.
Yeah, I think that's logical. The question is, you got to be careful with gimmickry and have high regard for the NBA. They're thinking, and Adam Silver as a decisive, fully grown leader in the decisions that he's made. And, it was only, a month ago, or at least it seems that way, when Rudy Gobert tested positive.
Yeah.
It was a major domino that changed the effect. So I think that money can always be negotiated. Now, we're talking about hundreds of millions, in some cases, billions of dollars.
Right.
That can be negotiated. Health and wellness, much more difficult. And you look at all the constituencies that we're dealing with. I mean, players, fans, hourly workers, front office workers, broadcast technicians, Zamboni drivers,
right,
pool cleaners. Just think about it. You want to make sure that everybody's safe. And so I think that the money aspect and getting us back to an economy, I would also say the dreary side of my brain thinks about the coming economic pandemic. Most people would say, we're in it. I don't think so. I really don't think so. How are all these people that aren't getting paid and aren't getting the ability to work multiple venues in a day? Let's just talk about the hourly workers who may, work 2 or 3 games in a day if they can. So the money can be figured out. The socialization is, I was talking to somebody this morning, and if you go out to any store, right, it's the 6-foot tape on the floor. Now some places are getting more sophisticated. Right. They have their own signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's it going to be like entering a stadium? I mean, is social distancing? Hi, I lined up 7 hours ago. I can't wait to get in for first pitch. Now, I don't want to be a wise ass about this.
Right.
You're just walking up to a gate with your hashtag on your phone and breezing in. Not right away, I don't think.
Yeah.
The news is that sports has always been a bottom-up, creative, innovative business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the breakthroughs have already come that way and will continue that way instead of some sort of top-down edict from on high that everything is zippity-doo-dah. You're
a consultant now, and you've been a consultant a couple different times in your career. I got a feeling you've been a consultant in some ways for 30 or 40 years. You're in your 5th decade here doing this. When you approach a team as a consultant, and I'm sure there's different things, what you really seem to be good at is driving attendance, from what I can see. And this is a slight change, but when you ran the Maryland Arrows, it looks like, in 1970.
The National Lacrosse League, right, which still exists.
Right, and you were drawing 18,000 fans in 1970.
Well, that was the Diplomats in the old North American soccer.
Okay, the North Americans, and the Maryland Arrows was the lacrosse.
Indoor lacrosse, but thank you for bringing that up. We did about 7,500 a game at the Capitol Center, the old Capitol Center, where there was a basketball team named the Bullets. You remember them?
Yeah, I do. Wes Unfeld.
The Wizards and the Capitals.
Yeah, Wes Unfeld.
Pretty darn well. But yeah, we played in the old NASL when the Cosmos were the global leader in RFK Stadium and did about 18 to 20,000 a game 50 years ago.
That's what I mean. That was what unusual. And then when the longest stint in your career was with the Oakland A's, you
Right.
spent 15 years there, and that was the Billy Ball era with Billy Beane. I mean, the numbers I saw is they started with 800,000 people at the beginning, and then you got up to 2.9 million in that stadium.
Yeah, actually, and so as we're sort of heading to the red zone, but
There you go.
This new book, Billy Ball, is just out this month by Dale Tafoya.
I didn't know that.
Telling the story of Billy Beane, who I have great respect for. That was Moneyball. This is Billy Ball. I was lucky enough to be involved with the great Billy Martin, the late Billy Martin. And essentially, to answer your question, Bill, I sort of grew up as a Disney person, watching TV, lucky to go to the park on the West Coast early in my life. And I went, holy mackerel, this place is sort of special. They make you feel like you're somebody that is the only person in the park. And so I think that the ability to look at your fan base, and I always, analytics and metrics is great, and I don't mean to sound like a grumpy old man, but my demographic profile in sports when I started working was called people that eat. A rather large demographic. And if you can't make them happy, they're coming to your venue in whatever sport, I might have been in or what anybody's working in a luxury suite or any kind of building. You want people to have fun. You want them to appreciate common human decency. And to a certain extent, the money is serious. The venues have to charge more because of how they're financed. But, people say, well, what was your number one sports event in all of these things that you've done? And to me, it might sound sappy, but it's walking around a ballpark and just seeing the smiles on people's faces, whether it's a bunch of friends together, a family, any kind of organization having a great time. If we do that, then we've lost it. And that's what we're going to have to strive for as we start working, to our future coming.
Well, a lot of times when you get older, you look back to what you were, and either you learn something or you basically say, what did I learn? I'm curious, do you see things differently now than when you were a kid, or is it essentially the same type thing?
I have two older brothers who are both way more intelligent than I. But I was mute until I was 15.
Yeah.
Know me go, that's impossible. Was, generally quiet.
Uh-huh.
And now my wife said, you never shut up. And what I learned is talk to everybody. I mean, not in the middle of the night, but when you're out and about, when you're waiting on the line, we're all the same, although some of us think we're not.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can learn by just striking up a simple conversation. And what I've really liked about being involved with you and all the people in ALSD is sort of the openness that they have and truly coming back to the beginning of where we started. We're all on the same damn team.
Yeah.
Nobody has won a Nobel Prize in sports.
Well, they haven't. I used to say I was the most shy person in the least shy industry on earth. I'm not that shy, but compared to the people in this industry, in this corporate hospitality side, these guys are crazy.
What I've learned most is your network can never, ever stop growing. And because, good luck to you. Or people that say, hey, Dolich, you've made enough money. Why don't you just retire?
Yeah.
Well, I know, because there's too much to still discover. And there's too much still to do. And there's too many great people out there. And I love talking to younger people and serve as their poster child, where I go, look, if I've been a success or a modicum of success, look at me, any moron could do it. And my daughter, Karen, who you know, she said that to me when she was a sophomore in college. Dad, you've given us a great life, me and my twin sister, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Our brother, Corey, he's now starting to work in the business of sports. That proves that any moron can succeed.
There you go.